Right, okay. Hi. As you just said, my name's Chris Peppiatt and I work with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. I'd like to say thank you to Sinead and the Limerick City and County Council and the Deputy Mayor and that for inviting us to talk. Okay, thanks very much. This talk is about marsh fritillary, which is the only, as has been said earlier, is the only butterfly in Ireland that's actually on a protected list. So as we go, we'll just go straight into it. So the marsh fritillary, the Irish name is Fritillon raceque, which is, raceque is just marsh apparently, I checked it out, so it's a direct translation. It is a very wide spread butterfly right across Eurasia from Spain and Ireland and Britain, right across the EU, all the way through Russia and Siberia to Korea and Mongolia and northern China. So it's got a wide, very wide distribution. I think it's found in all EU countries except for Norway and Malta, although it may have become extinct in Netherlands. We're not entirely sure. It's listed in. Right. Okay. Grand. It's listed in Annex 2 of the EU Habitats Directive, which means that it has to have special areas of conservation designated to protect it, and there's 12 in the Republic of Ireland that have it as a qualifying interest, although as we have heard earlier, some of them might not have had that many marsh fritillaries in them recently. So it's also listed in it was in the 2010 Red List of Irish Butterflies as one of 3 of the vulnerable species. There were also 3 species that were of higher concern that were endangered, but it was one of the 3 vulnerable species with large heath and dark green fritillary, and that means it's had a historical decline of more than 30% in its population or its distribution. As we go, we'll go quickly through the life cycle. So the adult butterflies fly mid-May to the end of June, so it's flying now, so we might even see some tomorrow if we're lucky. The egg is there for about present in the next bit of the life cycle after the butterflies are bred in June and July, and the egg lasts about 30 days before it hatches. Caterpillar is present from late July in 1 year to early May the next year. So it's, you look at it and we think of the picture of the butterfly and that, but actually the caterpillar is by far the largest part of the life cycle. It's a caterpillar for 9 months, so 3/4 of its entire life. Chrysalis is present in late April to early June, and it takes about 2 weeks from the chrysalis being made to the emergence of the butterfly. And then again, as it says, the whole thing starts again. So we'll look at that. That's a nice picture of the butterfly. The little picture is a newly emerged marsh fritillary that hasn't puffed its wings out. I think that's a female because they tend to have wider abdomens, but I could be corrected on that. And you can see that it's a fritillary butterfly. It's got that lovely pattern of dark kind of lines across a lighter background, but most of the fritillaries actually have an orange light. The background is lighter. The lighter background is orange, but with the marsh fritillary, it's orange and yellow, so it gives it that kind of bicoloured look. So it's quite easy to identify, I think, when you see it. We in this country we have a form called Hibernica, which is supposed to be brighter than the forms found elsewhere, although I never noticed much difference between that and the ones that I saw as a child in Britain. Anyway, let's go on. And there we've got a couple of marsh fritillaries pairing up. The males normally come out of the chrysalises a bit before the females. They spend their time patrolling, waiting for the females to emerge. And what happens then is the females come out a bit later, and they're quite often paired up and bred before they've even taken their first flight. It's happens quite soon after their emergence. I think looking at that one, that the one on the left is the male and the one on the right is the female. The females tend to be, he's a bit worn, I think, if you look at that. And she's a bit bigger as well, brighter and a bit bigger, so I think that's the way around with them. After the pairing, the female lays anything from several hundred eggs in group 200 to 300 eggs in groups of anything like from a few dozen to maybe 100 each. On the underside of the food plant, which is a thing called devil's bit or devil's bit scabious, the eggs start out yellow when they're first laid, and then they get darker brown as they get older. And the eggs, as I say, last for about a month before the caterpillar hatches out. As they hatch out, they're little dark black or brown spiky things. As I say, that there's nine. Or is the caterpillar stage lasts about 9 months, or can do, and it goes through 6 instars, which is molts so it has 5 molts and 6 instars before it finally pupates. The caterpillars live together communally, and they produce webs which they can actually use to shelter in. The advantage of them living communally is that they're dark black, and they can actually huddle together and climb out to bask and raise their temperature, so they can actually be many degrees warmer than the air temperature, and they can be active. I mean, they hatch maybe in July, and you start to become, the webs start to become quite noticeable in August. And they're quite easy to see and to survey in August and September and even early October. Then, as the weather gets worse, they move down to the base of the vegetation and produce a winter web, which is thicker and more protective. And basically, they'll last out the winter. You'll see them emerge again. If you get a nice day in February, you can see them as early as February coming out to bask, and that's why they do need, although they grow in a reasonably short sward, they need kind of higher vegetation to climb up to and to bask to gain heat. By the time it gets around to about April or May, they stop being communal and living in the webs, and they become solitary, and they get to their final instar, and you can see with the picture on the right that they have little white spots on by that age, and you see them. You go around in a place where there is a colony in April and May, and you'll see these solitary caterpillars walking around. But eventually, late April, May, it turns into a chrysalis, and the chrysalis is quite attractive. It's in the habitat where the food plant is. It's not necessarily on the food plant. The one on the left is on a clover, I think red clover. It's a whitish grey chrysalis that's got rather attractive patterns of black and orange on it. And you can see on the left-hand one, you can see those two thin stripy bits are actually where the antennae are, or will be when it hatches. That's the hand on the left is actually Maria Long's. That picture was taken on Kilgarraleska in East Galway. So let's just have a look at the larval food plant. We saw it before. There's a picture of it on the left. It's very important because it's the only plant that the caterpillar feeds on in this country anyway. The picture on the left is of it on a kind of a bit of bog somewhere in April. The picture in the middle we've already seen with the eggs on, but you look at it, it's very distinctive, heavily veined and netted. And you can see it on the right. That would be about when they're flowering, about July, August, so the adult butterflies never actually see the flowers. and you can see when you get a good site, it can be quite dense, and that's what you need for the butterfly, because the caterpillars are they don't strip plants at all. They seem to eat a few leaves from one plant and then they'll just move on to another plant. And you can follow where they've laid their where they've put their webs, because there'll be bits of web left, and it also turns the leaves on the scabious brown, so you can actually track where they've been. Habitat requirements: a high proportion of the larval food plant, which is devil's bit scabious, or some people it's not scabious, but size of pretensis, at least 25% cover or 10 plus plants per square metre. Sward height 12 to 25 centimetres, that's 5 to 10 inches in the old money. And hummocky structured sward with varying vegetation heights to allow caterpillars to find shelter and to climb upwards to bask. And a good aspect for larval basking, i.e. south-facing good, north-facing poor, and you don't want something that's overshadowed for a significant part of the day. So you don't want someone to put forestry plantation in by the side of your marsh fritillary colony. Habitats used by marsh fritillary in Ireland: calcareous grassland, often with limestone pavement or esca, wet unimproved grasslands, including designated millennium meadows, calcareous fens, cut over bog that's got a lot of devil's bit scabious on it, fixed dunes and macaire grassland, edges of intact bogs and heaths. Other factors that affect them: it's like many butterflies, they don't like poor weather, but weather factors can sometimes affect the wasps that parasitise them as well, and actually cause an advantage. And you know, as Jesmond was saying about parasitic wasps, this species can be a victim of two species of parasitoid wasp, the genus Catesia, and they lay their eggs in the body of the caterpillar, but they don't attack pupae or anything like that. And they cause them to die. Ultimately, the larvae eat the caterpillar from the inside out, and eventually turn into pupae, chrysalises themselves, and emerge. And in some years, 75% of the caterpillars are killed, but in other years it can be as low as 10%. For example, in years with a cool but sunny spring. And these wasps actually go through up to 3, depending on the species, and the situation could go up to 3 generations in one year, or one butterfly generation. And this species is known for wide fluctuations in population levels. There can be hundreds or even thousands of adults on a large site in 1 year. In other years, there can be few butterflies at the same site. The adult butterflies, well, males are supposed to go further, but the females are quite capable of dispersal. And there are often a number of other sites in the area, satellite sites that are associated with, large core sites. And these are referred, this kind of population distribution is referred to as a metapopulation. These sites can be as small as half a hectare, that's 1.25 acres, and they can be as large as 20 hectares, which is 50 acres in size. The core sites where the butterflies present in at least small numbers every year are important, and the butterfly may disappear completely from the small sites in some years, but these will be repopulated by butterflies dispersing from the core areas, as long as the habitat's still all right. And there's a picture of caterpillars that have been parasitised by the wasp, and with the wasp pupae by the side of the dead caterpillar. Right, so what's the population like in Ireland? So the marsh fritillary is listed as vulnerable in the red list of Irish butterflies, which was Reagan et al. 2010, which meant there was, as I said before, there's a population reduction of historically of more than 30%. The records pre-2010 had butterflies in 435 10 kilometre squares, versus in the period from 2010 to 2021 in the Atlas of Irish Butterflies, Harding and Lysett just released a few weeks, just launched a few weeks ago, and very good value for anybody that wants one. Only 355 squares, which is a reduction of 18%. But then if you compare, as Liam was saying when he was looking at records from 1995 to 2010 in the Nash Dublin Naturalists Atlas, there were 248 10-kilometre squares that it was recorded in, whereas from 2010 to 2021 there were 355 squares. So that's an increase of 43%. And then looking at EU Habitat Directives Article 17 reporting, which happens every 6 years, but this is for the Republic only rather than all Ireland. 95 to 2012, 239 squares, 2007 to 2018, 314 squares, plus 31%. 2013 to 24, 297 squares, which is not minus 17, but it's been recorded for the first time since 2017 in 31 extra squares. So it's a kind of a confusing population statistics, or they can be, but basically there's been a historic decline. I mean, you can read accounts from the 19th century in both Fermanagh and Clare of the butterflies being so common that they were actually a problem to people, crawling into people's houses. And we haven't got any numbers like that. So I think over time there has been a decrease in the population in Ireland, or the range in Ireland. But just currently they seem to be either stable or slightly increasing, but from a lowered level. Threats to marsh fritillaries: agricultural land improvement, drainage, abandonment of management or use of grasslands. In other words, stopping of grazing, mowing or traditional farming, over or undergrazing by livestock, afforestation, climate change. Temperature's not a problem. I'm not quite so sure how much the nitrogen problem that Jesmond was talking about is likely to be a problem. I'm not sure it affects how it would affect Devil's Bit scabious. As well as that, it does appear to have been recently moving slightly uphill in Ireland as well. I don't know if that's in some sites. I don't know if that's a function of increasing temperatures, but it may well be. So why monitor marsh fritillaries? To establish accurate trends, the species distribution and range, and to establish accurate trends for marsh fritillary habitat quality, which is all important. Right. The types of monitoring we have are casual records from citizen science or general surveys, and many of these records are sent into the National Biodiversity Data Centre. I kind of have the feeling that most of these are probably adult butterflies rather than caterpillars and webs. And the other type of monitoring is carried out by specialist surveys, which is where you're basically surveying for the presence of larval webs and the condition of the habitat. We had surveys that were carried out by contractors in 2011, 2012, and 2014 and 15, but also started in 2015 was the All Ireland Marsh Fritillary Monitoring Scheme. Well, that's continuing. It's run by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, the National MBDC, and the NIEA and Butterfly Conservation Northern Ireland. Monitoring techniques consist of surveys at sites for larval webs to assess the quality and of suitability of the habitat for marsh fritillary. We carry that out mainly in August and September, or mainly early October in a good year. You can find details of the marsh fritillary scheme and the MBDC website at that link. But basically, the habitat survey, you establish a W-shaped zigzag route through the habitat that you're looking at. and every so often you make stops where you look at various important factors, like basically the amount of the height of the height of the sward and the density of devil's bit scabious plants. And then at the end of the assessment, you provide an estimate of cover of the scrub that's on the site as well. And the larval web survey is similar. You can do it if it's a small site, or you can cover it. You can cover it by walking lines 2 metres apart and counting all the larval webs that you manage to find. If it's a bigger site, you just do a transit through it. But anyway, that's, you can look at that. The monitoring of the site covered by the marsh fertility monitoring scheme has decreased slightly in the last few years. So National Parks and Wildlife Service is collaborating with the NBDC to hopefully reinvigorate the scheme in the Republic of Ireland. To say that we're going to have training days in early September at Sheshkin Moor Nature Reserve in County Donegal. So there's going to be one day on a Thursday and one day on a Friday and one day on a Saturday. And we hope that people will be interested in taking part in that and joining in marsh fritillary monitoring. Why conserve the marsh fritillary? It's the only butterfly and insect found in Ireland that's protected by the EU directive. It's listed in Annex 2 of the Habitats Directive. Even though it's widespread and appears to be increasing recently, it's a species that's historically declined in Ireland and is decreasing in Britain and most of the continental European countries. Germany, Latvia, Luxembourg, Slovakia and Ukraine have all had population decreases of more than 30%, and it might be extinct in the Netherlands. Management is required, conservation, the management is required to maintain the good quality habitat from the marsh fritillary. This kind of management is well known. It's the best kind of management is extensive grazing, particularly of cattle or maybe horses. Sheep, not so much. They eat the sward down too low. The sward, and varied vegetation heights that I described earlier are necessary to maintain the butterfly. And our aims are to monitor known core sites and identify any new ones to come, and to encourage the management of them to maintain the good quality marsh fritillary habitat. And as long as, on satellite sites, as long as the habitat quality is maintained, even if they do become extinct on the smaller satellite sites, they'll quite happily recolonise. And also the ambition that there will be, ultimately, and this requires consultation, there will be agri-environment measures for marsh fritillary in the Republic of Ireland. Thank you.